based on when Stephanie McMahon stepped down to take time away from the company, and since that time the company put out some disparaging comments about her, they hired people to replace her. Based on the timeline and the fact that she's been on the board of directors, she would have known of the investigation when she stepped down.
Yeah, well, she's still on the board of directors, is she not?
She is, yeah. So she knew about that before she stepped down.
Yes, she did, which paints that in a different and interesting light. Now, I've also heard the theory postulated here today on the internet that they disparaged Stephanie on the way out at Vince's behest because they didn't want to fuck with the stock price. And they thought if she left and there was something wrong with the company, and that's why she was leaving, then the stock price would suffer. So instead, they put out the word that she's taking a leave of absence. But really what it was they weren't happy with her work. So they put that story out so it wouldn't panic anybody. Well, now, not to jump ahead, but we're going to be finding out shortly in this dissertation that the person that they weren't happy with her work is now running the whole goddamn fiasco.
But is she?
So,
but we'll
but
get to
is
that.
she? But we'll get, well, also, I mean, trying to get to all these things, we got to remember that the McMahons are going to circle the wagons around themselves against everybody else. So I'm sure that, and maybe Stephanie had this to the back of her mind, maybe Vince did too. Let's let her step back so we can calm that down. But if this breaks and gets public because we can't stop it, then we can bring her back. And a lot of people said, well, why wouldn't it be Shane or somebody else? Because Stephanie's the one that's been there for years, regularly working in the business, making it her life. Without a McMahon of some description running the show, or at least in the chair, as they say, the stock price would have gone sideways. But now at least and it still, I'm sure is, but they can at least make the argument that there's still an experienced McMahon in charge of the situation, and she's been the face of the thing for some time now.
Well, Jim, the other interesting thing that came out of all of this, and we've kind of danced around it a little bit here, but a tweet, June 17th, 2022, 7:48 a.m., from Stephanie McMahon.
That, by the way, they started early in the morning. The statement that Vince was stepping down went out at 7-something in the morning. How do you think they even went to bed the night before? Go ahead with the tweet.
They were going to get it out before the market opened. That's exactly what they were going to do. Until the conclusion of the investigation into recent allegations, I am honored to assume the role of interim chairwoman and CEO. I love WWE and all it continues to do to entertain billions around the world. Also, Andre the Giant was my best friend as a child. He used to pick me up in his hand, and I would kiss him on the cheek.
Like Thumbelina.
And then he would dip me in wine. But that part wasn't in the statement. I may have ad-libbed some of it.
Some of it. I mean, do you think, does Stephanie end up with this thing permanently? Because then, I wonder, would Nick Khan think about that? Because does Khan want to run the thing, or does Khan just want to sell the thing?
Who wants to buy the thing if this is the drama going on? What are you buying?
Well, and now Nick Khan's probably thinking, oh, shit, I had to get in a business with these wrestling people. Because somebody's always fucking somebody. But Stephanie, she's a McMahon, and she's younger, and she's experienced. And maybe they'll say, well, since the old chairman and his, old assistants were committing sexual impropriety, maybe we put a woman in charge. That'll eliminate that problem. Until we find out about the pool boy up there in New Hampshire. But nevertheless, I mean, Stephanie's been head of creative and has never been universally praised for that. Stephanie's done a lot of things in the company, but does anybody want to follow Stephanie into battle like they did Vince back in the old days? I mean, how do they feel about the two of them these days? When I was there, it was, Oh, yeah, Vince is General Patton, and there's his cute little daughter. Does anybody take Stephanie seriously these days up there now after the last 20 years or whatever?
I think there's people that prefer her to some of the people that Vince has been surrounding himself with. That's for sure.